to use the general's term. Pictures provided by a British pool team.
Aaron, one of the difficulties here, of course, is that when the Marines began this engagement, they really had no clear idea what the size of the enemy force was. People don't announce their forces. So you could be engaging a sniper, a squad, a platoon, or something. You tell the size of the force by the amount of fire coming out, the type of weapons that you're being shot at with, and it takes a while to develop that situation.
Well, that's the picture here. Let's see if we get it back. There we go.
And probably for the men in the tanks, they've never gone through this before either.
And I would just make the point here, as
Let me give you my take on it.
remind you that this is not a TV show going on out there, that anything might happen and something very ugly could happen.
Started this whole firefight was fire coming from
And that is the
two Iraqi
nature of
positions
what we are able to
that
do,
building.
for
Now,
good
what
or for
happened
ill.
Before that is that they obviously found another position in a berm, a huge sand bunker, where they thought they were receiving fire from, and one of the tanks took that out first, poured a lot of heavy machine gun fire into that position, and then some kind of cannon round, which you saw as the big cloud of smoke. Then they have moved down and are now pouring fire into the building. As you can see, there were at least 2 very large rounds went in, with a lot of machine gun fire following up. That is still going on now, and there are still fires going into that building. We had a call just a few minutes ago saying, keep your heads down along the line. There is still fire coming out of that building. Difficult to believe, I know, with the kind of battering it's taken, but obviously the US Marines are not satisfied that that building is safe, so they are still pounding it, and I suspect they will take it down brick by brick if necessary.
The voice of David Bowden, who's the British pool reporter. With his team.
Well, if this is a counterattack, then, Simon, I think it's a counterattack that we can strike off the board, because I don't think it's go on much longer. I think the people, if they are still alive in there, will either have to come out with their flag waving, otherwise they will be killed. There's no two ways about that. The US Marines here are determined that they will use as much force as is necessary, and then a little bit more, to make sure that their people are safe when they go into these situations. So until they are entirely convinced that this is over, that there are no more hostiles, as they call them, in that building, capable of doing them any harm, they will not let up. As I said before, if they need to demolish that thing brick by brick to make sure, that is what they will do. There won't be much left of that building when they've finished.
And Aaron, this, I think, illustrates the enormous complexity of ground combat in these small actions. The Marines really don't know what's up there. There's no terrain board, there's no map, there's no satellite imagery for them.
All of the advantages of
As I
a
said,
modern army.
There was an escalation,
Not
a very
there.
rapid
They're not there
escalation.
at the lowest level.
Right.
That we always put the technology in first to help the generals. And it's working its way downward, and it's not down here yet. What they'd like to have is an unmanned aerial vehicle.
Sure.
With a TV camera, they can fly up there and spot those guys.
Mortar rounds
They don't have
started going into that area, and then there were 2 Javelin missile strikes. The first one went long of the building that we were just looking at, that is now smoking. The second one was a direct hit, went straight into the top of the building, and we thought that that was it. Then the tanks arrived. They parked up just a ways down the road, waited for a while, and then slowly moved in. And as the last half an hour or so, I suppose, has played out. We've seen those tanks move into position. They've taken 2 positions out, one in a bunker, a berm similar to the one that I'm sitting in now, where they thought that there was Iraqi fire coming out of. Now they're concentrating their fire on the building that we were watching just a short time ago. But as Mike is showing you the pictures now, we have one of the US Marines with big binoculars, getting eyeballs on the situation, trying to find out what is going on there. But until that building is completely clear, till everyone up here is happy that no one is in danger, then this situation will go on. Yeah, it's closer to 2 now, Simon. This still kicked off 10, 15 minutes past 8 o'clock local
Still
time.
engaging in there.
We're now 2 hours into it, and it's still going on. I think it points up quite obviously that very small numbers of resistance can put up a whole barrage of problems for a very highly trained, highly equipped unit. The whole mission here has had to come to a halt while they deal with what is probably no more than a handful, maybe a dozen or so Iraqis who have been firing on their position. So whilst it might not be a huge problem in the great scheme of things, these are not vast numbers of people, they have brought this situation to a halt for 2 hours at least. It looks like it's going to go on for a little while longer, and until this area is completely safe, and nothing is to say that this is not the beginning of maybe a series of attacks on this position. This could go on for the rest of the day, perhaps even longer than that, and all the time the next mission, the next task for the 15 new here is having to be put on ice.
I will tell you that General Clark, it would be the general's considered opinion that this is not going to go on for hours and days.
But this is the task of the 15th MU. This is precisely what they should be doing, which is clearing this area.
I'm not
And it's unfortunate that normally you find out you have to clear an area when you get shot at.
But it is being done the way it is being done.
That's how you learn.
That's the way you learn.
To try and drag this out, it achieves nothing. These people are trying to deal with this in the most efficient, most pragmatic way possible. It's taking this long because it needs to take this long.
Exactly.
And I suspect that until they are absolutely sure, they will make sure that they have the upper hand, they have plenty of firepower to suppress any firepower that may come out of that building or anywhere else along this area of operation at the moment. The fact that we have received incoming fire from 2 positions does not mean that there are not Iraqis in other positions simply keeping their heads down, waiting till all this is over, simply to start it all up again. And until we do know that, then these men will stay here on their bellies in the dirt, staring down their rifle sights.
And there's one other thing that we probably ought to say about this. If this were World War II, you'd expect there'd be somebody back there pushing these troops to get up there and get this over with. But this is not worth taking that risk for. This is a matter of a slow, methodical reduction of this enemy position.
On-air director as well. There you go, you've got that shot now.
Is that a change in doctrine, or the fact that you already know the ultimate outcome of this war if it takes another hour, day, week?
It's just common sense.
Right, take your time. Well, but why wasn't it common sense in World War II?
For one thing, there were tempo problems, maneuver space problems, but maybe it would have been common sense in World War II.
Okay.
As we look at battle today, when you have very, very well-trained soldiers and Marines like this, they behave differently than we did in earlier engagements. And there's different technology. We're sitting here with a huge technology advantage over this Iraqi opponent. We've got better communications, more weapons, fire superiority, we've got tanks. If he has a tank in there, it hasn't showed itself, and his RPGs won't hurt these tanks. So we should conclude this action in a way that's most advantageous to us.
on the Marines' timetable and no one else's.
That's exactly right.
And RPG for people who are trying to figure that out.
Rocket-propelled grenade, the Soviets introduced them to the world back in the 1950s and 60s. We fought against them in Vietnam. They will penetrate lightly armored vehicles. They will not penetrate an M1A1 tank.